Many of us just assume that our tap water is okay to drink. We all know that it gets disinfected at the treatment plant to make it safe, but I've personally spent hours and hours researching tap water quality, and honestly, some of the trace contaminants in our water are pretty dang scary. Now, this video is not intended to fearmonger or spread misinformation. I'm only going to share information based on proven evidence obtained from scientific journals and peer-reviewed studies. I believe we all have the right to make informed decisions about matters that could directly affect our health, and with this video, I hope you'll gain the knowledge you need to take whatever action you see fit. So I'm going to give you a rundown of some of the most common tap water contaminants and also discuss how our water is currently regulated, and I'll also share some of my top recommended methods for improving your own water quality at home. I want to start with one of the most recently talked about contaminants, which are PFAS, also known as forever chemicals. One 2023 USGS study of per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, that's PFAS, specifically in drinking water in the United States, found that at least one PFAS could be detected in about 45% of US tap water samples. That means almost half of us are drinking one or more PFAS chemicals in our water every day. And by the way, guys, I'll drop links to all of these studies in the description if you want to go and check them out in more detail. And most recently, a study published on April 8th, 2024, titled Underestimated Burden of Per and Polyfluoroalkyl Substances in Global Surface Waters and Groundwaters. Doesn't sound good, does it? Specifically looked at the different types of PFAS that are getting into our water and how they're getting there. It shares some really interesting data, and I highly recommend reading it for yourself, but I just want to share the conclusion here, which says a large fraction of surface and groundwaters globally exceed PFAS international advisories and regulations, and future PFAS environmental burden is likely underestimated. That essentially means that PFAS are a major problem in water around the world, and their effects are likely worse than we think. There's still a lot we don't know about PFAS, especially considering how widely used they are in manufacturing and consumer products, but unfortunately that's the truth. So what do we know about forever chemicals, and what should you know? They're a group of more than 10,000 man-made chemicals that have been used in industry and consumer products for decades. If you've ever used cleaning products, paints, non-stick cookware, cosmetics, or water-resistant clothing, there's a high chance that you've been exposed to PFAS. They're known as forever chemicals because of how long they actually persist in our environment, which is why they're so common in our water now. There are literally tens of thousands of them, and they've accumulated over decades. The data on the health effects of PFAS is limited, but we do know that the chemicals that have been tested are toxic to humans, so much so that on April 10th, 2024, the EPA announced the National Primary Drinking Water Regulation on 6 of the most common PFAS chemicals. The CDC lists potential health effects of PFAS as increased cholesterol levels, changes in liver enzymes, lower antibody response to some vaccines, cancer, and complications during pregnancy. I'll probably end up making a dedicated video all about PFAS, but they're far from the only dangerous contaminants in our water. Micro and nanoplastics, also known as MNPs, are another hot topic currently. Almost every type of consumer product has plastic in some form, whether it's in the product itself or just in the packaging. And when these plastics are carelessly discarded or even sent to the landfill and start to break down, it's inevitable that they're going to end up contaminating our drinking water. There are even MNPs created on purpose, which are commonly used in cosmetics. I personally think that the most concerning thing about microplastics pollution is that it's just so widespread. I read an article from the WQA that said between 10 and 20 million tons of plastic reach the ocean every single year, and the rest ends up in the soil. And you may have also seen recent news about microplastics in bottled water. In a State University of New York study of more than 250 bottled waters, scientists concluded that 93% of those contained varying levels of microplastics. Unfortunately, tap water isn't exempt either. As I already mentioned, when plastic starts to break down, it enters our water sources, and a 2017 study published by Orb Media concluded that 83% of US tap water supplies were found to contain plastic particles. The study also revealed that the highest density of plastic particles per volume of water was found in North America. And why should you be concerned? Well, the research on the adverse health effects of microplastics in humans remains limited. As with PFAS, the UNDP says there are major knowledge gaps in the scientific understanding of the impact of microplastics, which means we're not even fully aware of the scope of their dangerous effects. We also need to talk about disinfection byproducts, or DBPs for short. Tap water is most commonly disinfected with chlorine, and disinfection byproducts are formed when the disinfectant, particularly chlorine, interact with organic matter which is naturally present in the water. The big issue here is that these toxic chemicals are forming in the water as it travels to our homes through the distribution system, so they aren't easily monitored or managed at the treatment plant. The only way to completely prevent the formation of DBPs would be to use a completely chemical-free method of disinfection like ultraviolet irradiation, but this is cost prohibitive for many water treatment plants to consider using at scale. I couldn't find conclusive evidence here, which is likely because it's difficult to track contamination that occurs beyond the treatment plant, especially since the level of contamination varies depending on different water parameters and the concentration and types of disinfectants used. I was able to find a recent study on the progress of identifying disinfection byproducts, which noted that more than 700 DBPs have been identified in disinfected water. In terms of their health effects, the evidence we have so far is concerning. A recent 2024 study that investigated the impact of DBPs on human health commented that the exposure to these chemicals is associated with increased cancer risk, reproductive and developmental effects, cardiovascular diseases, respiratory problems, and a weakened immune system. And a review of the human health effects of disinfection byproducts highlighted that epidemiological studies have consistently observed an association between drinking chlorinated tap water and an increased risk of bladder cancer. The fact that only a fraction of these byproducts are regulated by drinking water guidelines, despite this rapidly increasing evidence of their serious health effects, is a bit mind-boggling. That's why I wanted to give them so much attention here, because there are ways to address them in our water. Now hit that like button if you're finding this video informative. I'm going to speed things up here a bit and whiz through some of the other harmful chemicals that are abundantly found in tap water. We also have other VOCs, which are volatile organic compounds, which include a wide variety of chemicals with known health effects. And I say other VOCs because many disinfection byproducts are actually VOCs themselves. Other VOCs are most commonly found in tap water that comes from a groundwater source, like a well, but they can sometimes also be found in surface water. According to the EPA, there are thousands of VOCs, and around 1/5 of the nation's water contains at least one volatile organic chemical. Some of the possible health effects of VOCs range from headaches and nausea to serious long-term effects like liver, kidney, and nervous system damage. Agricultural chemicals like pesticides and herbicides are also commonly found in tap water. They typically enter the water through surface runoff, but they can also get in there through spills, improper disposal, or simply seeping through the soil. And more than 1 billion pounds of pesticides are used in the US every single year. And a study published in 2021 noted that pesticides and their highly toxic breakdown product were found in 90% of the 442 streams that were sampled in the US. A review of the potential risk of pesticides to human health cited a number of studies that linked exposure with reproductive toxicity, endocrine disruption, breast and prostate cancer, Parkinson's disease, and cardiovascular toxicity. Additionally, we have nitrate that often comes from fertilizers, which is a highly water-soluble contaminant that commonly pollutes shallow wells, but it can also be found in surface water. An EWG analysis found that between 2017 and 2019, 59.5 million people were served by community water systems containing at least one detection of nitrate at or above 3 milligrams per liter. The biggest population at risk of nitrate contamination are children under the age of 6, especially with infants that can develop a blood disorder which causes oxygen deficiency, which is known as blue baby syndrome. Now, fluoride in water is a controversial topic, with many municipalities actually synthetically adding fluoride to the water because of its well-documented dental health benefits. But I want to include fluoride on this list because of data about its negative health effects when it's ingested in elevated concentrations. concentrations. I found a review by Harvard Public Health that cited preliminary lab research into potential brain and nervous system toxicity. And another very recent study on fluoride and thyroid health concluded that there was a link between exposure to water with high fluoride concentrations and altered thyroid function in some children, increasing the risk of some thyroid diseases. So I don't want to go all out and say fluoride is terrible and explicitly bad for you, because there's no disputing its benefit for our teeth, but I do think it's important to be aware of its potential negative health effects too, because I know many folks would simply prefer to have the choice about ingesting fluoride or not. The final group of contaminants that I really think you need to be aware of are heavy metals, with the most infamous, of course, being lead. Research shows that lead is extremely dangerous in water and toxic even at low levels. And according to the World Health Organization, it affects multiple bodily systems, including the neurological, hematological, gastrointestinal, cardiovascular, and renal systems. Lead was used widely in water distribution and home plumbing systems before it was banned in 1986, and thankfully, many public water systems are working to replace old, outdated lead service lines and implement programs to prevent lead leaching. But data from studies show that we still have a long way to go. For instance, an NRDC analysis of the most recent EPA data shows that between January 2018 and December 2020, 186 million people, a staggering 56% of the US population, were served by 18,694 drinking water systems containing more than 1 part per billion of lead. There's also chromium-6, or hexavalent chromium, a toxic metal that was detected by the EWG in tap water for more than 89% of American cities sampled. And so here are some studies I found on the health effects of chromium-6. The National Toxicity Program noted a significant increase in stomach and intestinal tumors in rats and mice that consumed chromium-6 in drinking water. The EPA also concluded in a draft health assessment in 2010 that relatively low doses of chromium-6 could increase cancer risk. Finally, the EWG noted that chronic exposure to chromium-6 in drinking water can damage the liver and reproductive systems, lower body weight, and delay skeletal development of the offspring of lab animals that were exposed to the metal. Other heavy metals that are commonly present in tap water include copper, zinc, cadmium, mercury, and iron. Some of these are more dangerous to human health than others. For instance, arsenic consumption in drinking water has been linked to cancer, cardiovascular disease, and diabetes, and even small amounts of mercury have been found to have toxic effects on the lungs, kidneys, skin, eyes, and nervous, digestive, and immune systems. I want to finish with a bonus mention of water hardness minerals. They typically aren't going to harm your health aside from skin or hair irritation, and in fact our bodies need these healthy minerals for things like bone health and muscle function, but they will cause issues in your home. So if you've noticed gray or white deposits on your faucets or shower heads, that's probably limescale, and it means you have hard water. Again, I don't want to go into too much detail here because these minerals aren't bad per se, but hard water is super common and it affects approximately 85% of US households, so I thought it was important to mention. So these are just some of the most common contaminants found in tap water, but by no means is this a definitive list. And if you check the most recent consumer confidence report from your water utility, you'll probably find at least a couple present in trace amounts in your water. Now you're probably asking, why are these contaminants detected even in trace levels? If they have all these nasty health effects like cancer, heart disease, etc., why are they allowed to be in our water? And that brings us to our discussion about how our water is regulated. As you may know, public water supplies in the US are regulated by the Environmental Protection Agency, or the EPA. Under the National Primary Drinking Water Regulations, the EPA has established maximum contaminant levels, which is the highest level of a contaminant that is legally allowed in drinking water. The MCLs are based not only on risk to human health, but take the costs of treatment into consideration. So the EPA's goal here is to balance both public health with the costs borne by the water treatment facility. So for instance, the MCL for uranium in water to protect against increased cancer risk and kidney damage is 30 micrograms per liter. That means public water systems must reduce the concentrations of uranium in water to fall within a range of 0 to 30 micrograms per liter. So legally, your water could contain 29 micrograms per liter of uranium, but does that actually mean that it's safe? Now, there are also maximum contaminant level goals, or MCLGs, which are strictly based on the risk to human health, but these are not enforceable. There's also the fact that some contaminants can build up in our body over time, so drinking trace amounts in our water could lead to dangerous exposure in the long term. And not forgetting that some contaminants like disinfection byproducts, VOCs, and pharmaceuticals aren't even regulated by the EPA at all. So we could be drinking dangerous levels of these contaminants in our water, and our water treatment facilities are not legally obliged to do anything about it. There are a growing number of organizations that are actually contesting the EPA standards for drinking water quality. I want to highlight the Environmental Working Group, or EWG, which has produced its own health guidelines, which are much stricter and intended to protect human health. The EWG has a tap water database, which you can use to look up your local water system to get a good idea of what contaminants your tap water contains. Similarly, Simple Lab, a water testing company, have produced their own health guideline levels, or HGLs, which are similar to the EWG health guidelines. The HGLs are health protective, non-enforceable drinking water benchmarks, and according to Simple Lab, if you drink water at or near the HGL over the course of your lifetime, it's thought to be safe and protective of your health. Simple Lab have also launched a database called the City Water Project, which is similar to the EWG's tap water database. You can look up your city and it'll tell you about your local water quality. The data comes from anonymized tap score water test reports from real users, and they also pull in the local water utilities consumer confidence reports. And it's updated nightly, which is really nice because it makes it both comprehensive and also current. But even with all these super helpful, informative resources, the reality is that the EPA's standards are the only regulations that water utilities are legally required to comply with. So what can you do if you find out that your tap water is contaminated with chemicals, heavy metals, and stuff you just don't want to put in your body? Well, the best course of action, unfortunately, is to take matters into your own hands. If there's one positive thing to take away from this video, it's that residential water treatment technology is becoming more advanced and comprehensive than ever before. You can now choose from dozens of different water filtration systems that are highly capable of reducing or removing a wide range of contaminants, from those that affect taste like chlorine to those that pose more serious health effects like lead, PFAS, and disinfection byproducts. I'm not going to get into the specifics here because I have a separate video all about how to choose a water filter, but rest assured you do not have to drink your water as is. There are solutions out there that make it super quick and easy to remove the contaminants you're concerned about and vastly improve your water quality. I've covered the most common tap water contaminants in this video, but in order to choose the best water filter for your specific needs, I always recommend lab testing to get the full picture of your water quality and find out which specific contaminants are actually present. There is no one-size-fits-all water filtration solution, unfortunately, so leveraging the testing data is your best bet to ensure you get a system that's capable of addressing the issues at hand. As a quick reminder, I've linked up all the studies I've referenced down in the description. And if you have any questions or want to know more about your water treatment options, let me know down in the comments. And if you want to know how to filter your water at home, click or tap the screen right now to watch the next video for a simple step-by-step guide.